Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing well. I'm excited to see what you have to say about H5P.
All right. Mainly
And
the
I'm
course presentation on this one. So,
and I'm amused that you're using WooClap to talk about H5P.
yeah. With so much to share, I mean, I could create the interactive activities in H5P and collect your responses through H5P. Um, but I mainly wanted to show the setup.
Thank goodness for dual screens.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
I have dual screens, but I'm working in a conference room, so I moved my laptop to the conference room, so I've only got the one. When I present, I may have to move up and attach my laptop to we've got this giant projection screen, and I might do that, but
Yeah, that's probably the only thing I really missed from the office when we first started teleworking. I was like, okay, what am I missing? And I was like, oh no. The first day, I was like, okay, I got to go back to the office and get my other monitor.
I had a spare monitor at home that I could just like connect to if I wanted. So when I needed two screens, absolutely, that was what I'd do.
I was good until my wife, her office sent her home, and then my 16-year-old was starting to do school from home, and I was just like, okay, spare monitor is gone. I got to go back. So it's been cool though.
That sounds like too many people needing technology.
Yeah, but we're all thankful that we have jobs that we can literally do from anywhere in the world. So I will take that and run with it.
I think we're at 8 o'clock here. Daphne, what do you think? Should we give people a few more minutes to filter in after their fun game night, or?
I think we have pretty good crowd here. How about we just go ahead and start it? We have 24 here and
I think most of the sessions I've been in, that's been about the average.
And it looks like we're recording.
61 enrolled a course.
61 enrolled participants?
Yes.
Wow. Well, they can view the recording too. That's okay.
Yes.
That's why we're doing that. And it looks like you are recording. So we'll go ahead and get started. I want to say good morning, Moodlers, who were able to make it here at 8 o'clock bright and early. My name is Sasha Johnson, for those of you who don't know me, and I am a senior instructional technologist at Idaho State University. So I get to help faculty as they develop materials for online courses and help with professional development to help enable them to create better online courses. My colleague Daphne is here. She is going to be our moderator, but feel free to jump in anytime if you have any questions or if there's anything I can clarify. I don't object to you interrupting me, so don't feel bad if you do. You're welcome to unmute your mic and jump in. Oh, and somebody's mother-in-law is from in the Ammon area. Wow, my folks used to live in Ammon, but they're in Idaho Falls proper now. So I do have the WooClap up. I think you should be able to see that. I basically just have one little thing I want to do with you on WooClap, and if it looks like we have 16 people in there already, and I can bring it up when we're ready to do that as well. I just thought I'd give you a heads up. So I'm going to talk today about creating custom H5P course presentations. In the beginning, man created e-learning, and most of it was passive and page turners filled with walls of text. So all we did was click through an exercise and click next to continue. So that has little or no educational value. And I think that's exemplified by the example here on the slide that when we're installing software, many of us do it mindlessly. We click next. Yeah, that's where I want to save the file. Yep, I agree. That's the software I want to install. And yep, click next. I agree with the terms and conditions, whether or not we've read them. So we all kind of get in that habit of clicking next to continue sort of mindlessly without any interactivity, cognitive interactivity. And don't get me wrong, there is a place for linear instruction, especially with novice learners who need that extra guidance. But clicking next to continue isn't necessarily cognitive engagement or interaction. And there is research that suggests now that our attention spans have gotten quite short. Some say it's as little as 5 minutes. So that means that we need to be able to grab and sustain learners' attention, but often those e-learning presentations are mind-numbingly boring monologues, or they're just all push and no pull. And for e-learning, that interactivity that we design, it has to be cognitively engaging on the learner's part rather than just clicking aimlessly. And we have the technology, and it's H5P. That's what I think. So I'll just ask one question on WooClap if everybody's ready. Not that one, sorry. What comes to mind when you hear the term H5P? What terms does that bring to your head when you hear H5P?
I'm not finding the Woo Clap in your course. Where is it?
Oh, it's not in my course. So here, let me copy the link and put it in the chat. Thank you. Melanie, was that who said that?
Yes.
That's not it. A lot. That should be the URL, but I don't know if it will pull it up. But we're getting lots of great stuff in here. Designing with spending $600 instead of $1,200. Is that what someone's thinking?
That should have said without spending
Oh, without spending
$600.
$600. Okay, I was going to say, because yeah, it can get really expensive when you have to have coders and. But I love it. A flash replacement, letters and numbers, interactive content. Interactive is the big one. Oh yeah, and there was a time limit. Sorry. I had a couple of WooClap. I had a little bit of difficulty with that. So I think I have 2 accounts, and this was the original account that I couldn't find again. But that's okay, because this is what I wanted. I wanted to see what everybody thought of WooClap or of H5P when they hear the term. And I like formative assessment, engaging, interactive, flash replacement, because H5P has been the answer to replacing much of the flash content that I have created that's now deceased. And so just if I can get a show of virtual hands, how many of you have actually used H5P or created H5P activities? If you want to raise your thumbs up or even your hands if you have cameras. Okay, so there are some in here. So that's good. Oh, and branching scenarios and interactive video is what Melanie put in, and HTML5, Deborah put in the chat. Yes, those are all things that I think of too when I hear the term H5P. So I'll just start with a basic H5P course presentation. Again, some of you did give me a thumbs up that you have created H5P before. And so what I'm focusing on today is just the course presentation, H5P activity. And so this is a basic course H5P, course presentation H5P that I created. And I just used the standard slide navigation. So you can see down here we have 18 slides and they can go in order. There is the option to jump around, but it's more of a linear presentation. So how could I make that more interactive I felt like I could lose the previous and the next buttons, even though they don't say previous and next. We all know what they mean, previous and next, and then the ability to jump through the different slides. So I did. I got rid of those. And I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but there is the option to do that in the course presentation. So this is the same orientation, but it has no previous and next buttons or the number of slides. Instead, they're instructed to click on the different activities to learn more about them. So that is a little bit more engaging. They can come in here and say, okay, well, what does this icon mean? And you can see that it highlights blue to let them know that there is something there that they can click on to find out more about. Jump around. Thanks, Melanie. That's right. Jump around. Let's jump around. Let's let them actually pull what they want from the instruction instead of pushing everything to them all at once.
It's my little geeky music joke.
I was jumping with you. So first, I would recommend having all of your pieces together, knowing what you want students to get from it, and have that planned out as far as your interactivity. If you need any images, again, I did this layout first. That's a good idea. I did this with images. It doesn't have to be images. It would probably be more accessible if you didn't use images, you use text instead. However, in this instance, it was for a module for students who were going to be using a hemocytometer slide under a microscope. So I put this together. They actually got the linear presentation, but this was an idea I had for making it more interactive for them so that they could pick what they wanted to see. So if I wanted to learn more about a quiz activity, it would take you to that page and it would tell you about the quiz, and you could go through and kind of see what would happen when you take the quiz so that they know more about it. But at any time during this orientation, they can click on the breadcrumb and go back to the main page just like they can in the course. And that is explained when they click on that the first time so that they can see that that's what it'll do. And so to do a little bit more for the setup, I had planned on showing you some of the settings in here, but for some reason, these are no longer loading in the edit settings. I'm getting an error. So I did let Ryan know about that last night, but it was a little bit late because it worked just fine all week until last night. So that was kind of a surprise. Do I recommend any particular tools for laying it out first? Pen and paper works. I like to do pen and paper. You can also do it on the fly. I will just say that it's going to be a little bit more work on your part because you have to know where you want students to be able to jump to and what you'll need for them to see. Or it's kind of similar to the branching scenarios and lessons in Moodle, because you can have them go to specific places, and if you don't really have that planned out, then you might find yourself working a little bit extra on it, it seems like. Giant whiteboards, absolutely. Big charts on the walls with markers. I have a big paper board behind me on the wall that I can use. I also have tended to use even PowerPoint or Google Slides just to have something laid out. You'll want to know what your menu is, things like that, so that you'll know where students are going to go and where you want them to go. So then you would create the H5P and you would add your slides. And I do have here in this course, I do have something where we can see the difference between the linear and the nonlinear presentation. So with the linear presentation, for those of you who haven't created the course presentation, H5P activity type, I'll show you what that looks like and then show you where the differences lie so that you can see a little bit about the difference. Manuel, love your whiteboards. Me too. Maybe I should have had those loaded first. I'll let one load first. Yeah, so I'm not sure why this error is coming up, but it seems to just be happening on the Mountain Moot Moodle. It wasn't happening on our community site here. Except now it's not loading. So I did get some screenshots last night just in case this happened. With the interactive presentation, the nonlinear one, oh, Melanie, you were getting some errors too. It happens. And I know they just did a 3.9 update too or something this week, so they were working a lot on their Moodle site. So the key to the nonlinear presentations is this go to slide button. So this basically puts in a button to go to a slide. That's what it does. So when you click on this button, you get the option to add a title, which I would recommend because that's the alt text for that button. And then you can choose to go to a specific slide number, or you can choose to go to the next or the previous slide as well. I've used the specific slide number just because I didn't want to make them go linearly. And I don't recommend making it invisible unless there's a reason for you not wanting them to see where the buttons are. You can also make shapes with background colors and things like that to indicate that it is a button. Again, we all know that you want to be consistent with your buttons and your look. I just made these ones clear. So when you click that go to slide button, here we go. When you click that go to slide button, you can choose that name where you want it to go, and then it will insert it in here with that name. Of course, it'll insert it in the middle and it won't be that right shape, but you can see here that that's my research module breadcrumb, and it goes to a specific slide number, which is slide 2. And then each slide, you can still go through in your edit settings, you can still go through each slide and add different buttons using the go to slide. And again, you can add any shapes that you want. If you wanted to actually call it out with a border or anything like that, you could indicate your buttons like that. What else? It seems like I'm forgetting something. Activate surface mode. So that's where your behavior settings are, where it comes in, where you can get rid of those buttons that the course presentation has. And I don't know if anybody has done that or has played with this at all, but activate active surface mode is where it will remove those navigation controls, and then you'll use those go to slide buttons to navigate. I would recommend not doing that until you have all of your buttons in place, because once you do that, you no longer get to use those tools as you're building your course presentation. So then you have to go slide by slide. If you don't have these tools anymore, you have to go just slide by slide, and that can be a little bit cumbersome. So I would definitely recommend having these tools as you're doing your editing, so that you can jump to specific slides as you go. What else? I think that was really all I was going to say, and I was going to have you maybe build one with me if you wanted to, if you all downloaded the tools. I like to use an edge shape on either side. Oh, that's a clever idea, Manuel. Just use a shape on the edges that they can hover over and click to go to the next and the previous. Is that what you said? What you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So so just in case they can't find a button, if they, I put it in the course that if you click on the edge of the presentation, either the left or the right, they know it will automatically go to the next page.
And that's clever. And as long as you're consistent, I think that's what's one really important thing too, is that consistency with it. Something like this one, this orientation, it was mainly for them to explore the tools and options that are available on the course main page. And then, like I said, when I did it, it was for a module a research module that I did, and I just presented it linearly and self-paced so that they could go through it and do the reading. Because again, I do understand that even with the linear one, there's still a lot of text, but it is self-paced, and hopefully they are able to come back to this if they have any questions too. But the interactive one would be something where it could almost be an on-demand activity for them to come to and say, well, I haven't seen this before. What is this? And click on it to get a little bit more information about it. Melanie says you could create an image that looks like next, back, and then a click box over each to go where you want. Yes, you could. That is a great idea. You could even have text in here for your buttons. This isn't really getting away from the complete previous and next, but I did do a little worked example, which was what I was going to show too, that you can create worked examples like this with the course presentation. And you can also include, like Melanie was talking about earlier, the interactivity of the H5P, which is one big strength of H5P, is that you can actually do that formative assessment that somebody had put in the word cloud as well as you go. And that was one of the things when I created this little worked example that I wanted to do, was to have them, of course, read something. So I do have to push that instruction to them, but I also want to pull from them to see if they're getting it as they're going. And so that's why I think these worked examples where they can explore are a really great way for students to interact with the content that's much more engaging than just clicking next to continue. So let me do this first. So this was a lesson that I put together, and it has a little bit of an intro, and then we have the H5P worked example. So last year I presented on stool cultures. I don't know if anybody was there for that. This year I have sperm cells. So I'm always exciting on what I'm going to present for content at 8 o'clock in the morning. So this is a worked example of how to use that hemocytometer slide that I had mentioned earlier. And it gives students the opportunity to work through what an expert would do in a medical lab when they're doing a test for, whether it's an infertility test to determine if there's something with the male side of infertility. One thing, I'm sorry, I'm just reading the chat. One thing I don't like is if you need to make a minor change while it is live, anyone who's completed some but not all will be required to start over. Oh, yeah, that's a problem. You definitely want to have it all the kinks worked out before it goes live because of that. So that then again, it comes down to the planning, making sure everything is right before it goes live. I can see how that could be a problem, Melanie, with any of the H5P types that are collecting information for sure. So this worked example that I have, I gave some text and a little diagram, but then the students get to actually go through the different squares on the hemocytometer for them. Oh, I know, Melanie. Yeah, you create stuff and then they change their mind after it's been created, right? So this worked example, again, this is somewhat linear in the fact that these are novice learners, and I wanted them to go one piece at a time as an expert would. So they get to see one square, then they can see the others. So this shows them how to use this tool also, because it was used later in part of a summative assessment to see if they could count the cells in the different squares and then calculate an absolute sperm count. So this one, again, it does have advanced and it does have back, but I wanted to give them those options, and it gives them some information on each one of these slides. But then we also have a little check to see if they're matching what their supervisor in this virtual environment is getting for his counts. But after they get that done, we also had some practice activities so that they could, this one's a little formative assessment to see if the students could put the procedure in order, and we did use an H5P for that. But then we also had some practice activities where they gave them the the test request, I guess is what you would call it. And then they get to do these in their own order. Again, they're going to have to keep track of where they've been because this doesn't really tell them where they've been, but they have the option of counting any of these squares in any order that they want and then completing their count and entering their answer. And so that was a really fun way to use that activate active surface mode so that they could be more engaged with it without just pushing the information to them or mindlessly clicking through it. So those were my examples for that. And I didn't know if anybody wanted to take some time to practice putting a course presentation together. Do we have any votes for that? Or yes, this is embedded in, this is H5P embedded in a lesson. Melanie. And for some reason, I've lost my video here. That's not what I want. So let me just stop sharing for a second so I can see everybody's faces because I lost you all. And you're probably out. There's Melanie. She's still awake. So hopefully not everybody is asleep after last night's fun. And that was something that was a little bit informative and hopefully something that if you have seen before, you've seen it used in a different way, or if you haven't seen it before, it's something that you would find interesting. And I did put some resources in my course for the background images that I used in the little orientation that I showed, just so you could see, create your own in your own sandbox course. If you wanted to go through, I could help walk you through the steps of creating one and doing the go-to slide buttons. And
when you created those slides, did you actually take the image and put it in as a background, or did you just put the image on the slide and size it?
I just put the image on the slide and sized it. Is there a difference for accessibility when you have it as a background? Can you do alt text and have it?
Maybe.
Is there?
I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at that very much, but it might be.
And that's the other thing that I was going to talk about a little bit is the accessibility. Like I said, if you do the go-to slide buttons, if you put that text in there, it'll actually show that text when they hover over it. But I believe if they tab through it and use screen readers, it'll also read that text out for them. So that's another reason to use the title text.
I kind of think that if you put it on a background, it'll just say there's an image background. My only issue with doing backgrounds like that is you're never going to set up a thing that reads them the whole page, because that would be horrifying. And having any kind of, I mean, outside of, this is the home page as alt text doesn't seem very useful.
Meaningful.
Yeah.
It's not very meaningful. And I think with the way that I set it up, I tried to set it up with accessibility in mind so that as they tab through, they'll hear the titles of the buttons rather than the image alt text. So it would be more like, this is the breadcrumb, this is the quiz activity, this is the feedback activity, so that they can go through it and get the meaningful information and say, okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to look at was the quiz, or I wanted to look at the feedback.
And I think using a picture on the screen rather than a background would include the picture in the tabbing. But I don't think the background would, but I could be wrong on that. I haven't really tested it.
It's definitely something to test. Has anybody else tested the course presentation for accessibility? No.
No, I haven't.
I know the H5P website on their accessibility site, it does say that it's okay for accessibility, but I'm not exactly sure what that means. Yeah, the method is accessible by default. And then Gavin had a question about familiarization with the course considered using a Moodle user tour. I would have, however, this was a gated course, so I wanted to make sure that they went through this information before they accessed other information, just because some of them were going to be from outside our institution, and so they wouldn't have any familiarity with Moodle. And it is possible to just end the tour or click out of the tour and then not look at it. Again, the same can be said for this too. Anything that we provide students, whether it's feedback, whether it's instructional, we can't guarantee that they're attending to the information. We can just put it out there and hope that they are. And that's why I would have thought that making it more engaging would be something that would be more motivating to them to go through than just the linear orientation. Doubt it's accessible. Okay, go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, so yeah, no, so the way you've done it, you're relying on them actually seeing the image. Because your image, whatever alt text you do there, unless it's like about 1,000 words, it wouldn't be able to describe what's in the image. So therefore it could not be accessible. Unless you were basically creating a button for every single piece of text on the screen, it wouldn't work either. The order of the tabbing is wrong. There's a number of things, but I didn't want to talk about from of how you use H5P. I think it's a really good example. But you have to be cognizant that just because the tool itself is natively accessible, it's what you put into it,
right,
and how you use it. But just for that particular thing and particular method of what you're doing, I've seen just really good places putting together a sample induction course, which takes them through the different activities you're going to do. So they actually experience them rather than doing just a video or something like this. But the H5P thing, I love this presentation thing. And I love the way you've done the linear and the non-linear. I think that's a really good, it's a very good method for people to learn.
Thank you.
Sorry. So not accessible, but really cool thing to do.
That was one of my concerns, was that it would not be accessible. Like I said, because it was designed for students who were using microscope slides, we did not design it with accessibility in mind. So it is, but it is something, like you said, to be cognizant about, to be thinking about as we're designing things. And because it does have the capability of being accessible, the onus is on us to make sure that what we put in there is.
Gavin, do you know if there is a difference in accessibility on using backgrounds in H5P to using just an image?
In general, backgrounds are treated differently to foregrounds. So, oops, sorry.
So Melanie, you said that it's easy to add captions to interactive video, which it is. We found out that it can be done. But you're disappointed that if you add audio, so you just use the audio tool in H5P?
If you create like a slide and you want somebody to have some voiceover for the slide, like a real presentation, you can't add captions if somebody needs captions.
So you would have to provide a transcript.
It's kind of irritating to me.
Yeah, because that was another thing with this presentation, this orientation, we could have added audio to it to do narration instead of on-screen text. But where we were doing this for a research study, we were trying to limit certain things and not have confounding things in it. But so is there anything that I can explain more about the settings or how to create a course presentation? Is it pretty clear, or seems pretty, I mean, H5P is really, I find it pretty user-friendly to build, and I've been able to use it to recreate, like I said, the Flash activities that I had created that are now defunct.
Have you used any of the branching scenarios beta options?
I have not used that yet. I am curious about that. For the branching stuff that I have tried to do, I've done just in the Moodle lesson, and then used H5P as the interactive piece that would have been my Flash content, which for the most part, the things that I've built have been slideshows of microscope slides so that students can examine different cell types, and also most of this has been done for medical lab science, and they're the ones who run tests when you get blood tests and blood work done at the hospital. So those clinicians who run those tests and then analyze the results, the other ones have been for that kind of thing where they have chemistry analyzers, like a blood gas machine, where they take the sample and they put it in and then they interpret the results. But it's been more of a procedural sort of thing, so that they do certain things to go through those steps. Instead of just clicking next to continue, they click on the little syringe that injects the gas or the blood into the analyzer kind of thing. So, but yeah, they've always been embedded in the lesson because we wanted to get formative assessment. Even though the H5P can pull that formative assessment, we had chose the lesson mainly because when we built them, we were using PowerPoint slideshows, and that was kind of a pain, well, definitely a pain for students, because then they had to we had to make sure it was the PPS file so that they could download it and view it in the PowerPoint slideshow viewer mode without the editing mode to edit the slides. And, you know, yeah, it was a mess. And so when these course presentations came out, I was ecstatic. Well, I kept it short today, folks. I'm sure. Melanie, a lot of people don't know about the PPS mode. Yeah.
I said something to someone a while back, and I said, why are you giving it out like that? And they looked at me and said, is there another way? And I said, yeah, PPS.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that comment many times. Maybe that's just Kansas.
No, I know faculty here who didn't know about it, and I was the one who suggested that she do it that way. But what is my favorite H5P tool? Wow, that's a good question. I think, I don't know. Right now it's been, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're supposed to be in Montana. My favorite one to work with, I think so far, has been the interactive video. I really like this course presentation. I think it depends on the purpose, for sure. The interactive video I really like for presenting lecture material to students, and then being able to stop the video and try to get them cognitively engaged once again as they're going through it, rather than just pressing play and walking away. And for something like what I was going through today, I think the course presentation is the better tool for that. And then I love the drag and drop into order questions. Yeah, I like them all. I think it's really hard to say. And I think I will really like the branching scenario when I get to explore that more too. So I'm anxious to get to try that out. What's your favorite H5P tool? Oh, my least favorite. Daphne's asking my least favorite. I don't think I have a least favorite.
I guess I haven't used them enough to really have a favorite. I'm just starting to kind of experiment with them. But I do like the interactive video if we could get the captions to work easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had, and maybe other people can say, we've had to basically upload the video to YouTube, have YouTube do the auto captioning, fix it in there, and then export the file, the VTT, I think it is. So that's how we've been getting around that. But the course presentation one, I like it because it is so flexible, and I didn't even know it was possible to use those buttons in there. I think it's really beneficial for when you want students to explore on their own in a low stakes environment, for sure. We got some Totos. Are we gonna call you both Toto? No, okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I can let you go so you can get some breakfast or coffee or enjoy the rest of your morning. Bye, Lori. I see you waving. Hopefully that was fun, informative. It was quick, down and dirty.